Good morning, everyone. Today we will discuss the elements and principles of the art. But before that, let's have a quick introduction first. In the chapter on subject and content, it was mentioned that arts have a specialized language. And for us to be able to understand this language, the familiarity with some of the elements and principles that make it legible is required. Think of it as the letters, the stringing of letters to formulate a word, and perhaps even the different pronunciations and enunciation that assist comprehension. So probably the next chapter endeavors to take art and break it into its smaller parts, like a scientist who takes a slice or a sample and place it under a microscope. Our next lesson will allow for a better view, not of the final picture, rather the parts that completed it. So in this topic or in this discussion, let us understand why art is considered as a mode of communication. Taking off from the scientific reference, elements of art are akin to the atoms that are defined as the units or building blocks of matter. Together, in a variety of combinations and formations, they have the ability to create molecules such as water or the more complex sucrose. These formulations are almost the same with elements of art. When they are joined together in a variety of ways, in the same line of reasoning, the elements of art are the aspects of an artwork that can be isolated from each other. These elements of art are generally produced when something is done to the medium after the technique is carried out. It must be underscored, however, that all works of art require all elements to be present. Some art forms also necessitate some of the elements as they are inherent in the very nature of them. For example, sculptures automatically have the following elements with or without the decision of the artist to include them, like shape, form, and space. Without these elements, there is no sculpture. Elements are the necessary preconditions for the creation of an art. In the introduction, we compare language to art as art is also a medium of communication. This paragraph told us that elements of art is somehow like an atom. Why? Dahil alam natin na ang atom ay the smallest unit of a matter or a building block. Just like in art, walang mabubuong artwork kung walang elements na bubuo sa isang masterpiece, like lines, shapes, forms, and more. And that is why learning the elements of art is necessary for us to better understand an artwork, and if possible, we can create an artwork. To enumerate the elements of art and design are the following: line, shape and form, space, color, and texture. Kuya Nico, ba't nandyan si form? Hindi po ba kasama siya sa topic ng lesson 4? As what the reporter said, form has its own discussion, which is hindi siya pwedeng i-discuss sa report nila dahil kailangan ng mabusising discussion si form. Because in this discussion, we will talk about shape and form, not just form only. To begin with, first is line. A line refers to a point moving at an identifiable path. It has length and direction. It also has width. It is one-dimensional. However, it has the capacity to either define the perimeters of the artwork or the edges or become a substantial component of the composition. Although a line is simple, it has variations in view of its orientation, direction, shape, and thickness. These variations import not only the visual elements into the artwork, but suggest meaning or message being conveyed by the artist. A line is the fundamental element in all drawings, considered to be a moving dot, and is used as a visual definition of shapes, and it also plays a vital role in expressing emotion, form, texture, and emotion. A line serves to be the foundation of a more significant aesthetic expression and is integral to all drawings. It means art's role is crucial as it emphasizes forms and drawing. Di ba nga, all art starts with a line to measure or to balance an art. For example, when you draw a face, you have to make an intersecting line to know if your drawing is centered and balanced. Known for using lines to provide the outline or contour of the figures he portrays in his work, Kit Haring first executed the public mural Todos Juntos Podemos Parar al SIDA, or Together We Can Stop AIDS, in Barcelona in 1989. In 2014, it was recreated at the foyer of the Museo Art Contemporáneo de Barcelona, or Barcelona Museum of Contemporary Art, to commemorate Haring battled with HIV/AIDS, to which he succumbed to in 1990. So si Kit Haring ang unang gumawa ng mural art na gumamit lamang siya ng lines to express what he want to express. As we can see on his artwork, it looked like simple because we can see other elements rather than lines. But itong mural art na ito ay isang commemoration of his battle with HIV/AIDS na nagsimula noong 1990. As we can see and read sa mural nakalagay, Todos Juntos Podemos Parar al SIDA, or Together We Can Stop AIDS. This is his way of raising awareness about the disease, kumbaga, his expression on the importance of coming together to end a problem. A quality that is ascribed to line is its ability to direct the eyes to follow movement or provide hints as to a work's focal point. The orientation in which we are most accustomed to, such as the assertive force of gravity grounding objects, or the sideways or up and down vibration that informs us of an earthquake. The gussiness of wind from the window or the direction of the rainfall conjures different images of lines. Ibig sabihin, lines help us to follow movements, isa ring element na nagbibigay sign kung ano yung gustong ipahiwatig ng isang artist, just like directions. Horizontal and vertical lines refer to the orientation of the line. Horizontal lines are normally associated with dress or calm. Landscape often contain this element as works like this often connote the visual sense of being parallel to the ground. It is also alludes to position of the reclined body at rest, while vertical line on the other hand connote elevation or height, which is usually taken to mean exaltation or aspiration for an action. Together, these lines communicate stability and firmness. This means that horizontal and vertical lines refers to where the line position. Horizontal lines are straight lines parallel to the horizon that moves from left to right. They suggest distance, calmness, and stability. It means ang lapad or distansya na nabibigay kahulugan sa pagkakapantay, while ang vertical lines are straight up and down lines that are moving in space without any slant and are perpendicular to horizontal. They suggest height and strength because they extend towards the sky and seem unshakable. Diagonal and group lines. Diagonal lines convey movement and instability, although the progression can be seen. Crook or jog lines, on the other hand, are reminiscent of violence, conflict, or struggle. To make it simple, diagonal line is a straight line that slants in any direction except horizontal or vertical. When in use, they suggest movement or lack of stability, while crook or zigzag lines are series of diagonal lines joined at the ends. They can convey action and excitement as well as restlessness and anxiety. Next is curved lines. These are lines that bend or coil. They allude to softness, grace, flexibility, or even sensuality. These lines bend and change direction gradually. They can be simply wavy or spiral. Such lines convey the feelings of comfort and ease, as well as the sensual quality as they remind us of the human body. One of the most important Spanish artists is Francisco de Goya, known for his prints. He is a master of etched works and use of aqua tint. He made use of this medium to articulate his political views about the ills of society, war scenes, and even the dreamlike and grotesque, while still engaging with what was happening around him. As with most etchings and other types of prints, lines are the dominant visual components of on his artwork. In this artwork, we can see different types of lines that represents different meaning. The piece can be interpreted as a poor man who discovers money that was purposefully hidden from him by a crowd of wealthy aristocrats who were meaning to ridicule his desperation. These circumstances are supported by the text of the piece, where out of disbelief and anguish, the man may have been provoked to say, "Por qué esconderlos?" He may have been asking, why hide the money that I needed? Why hide something that could save my life? The symbolism behind the detail of faces corresponds with this plausible interpretation as well. The skull-like design of the elderly man's face alludes to both his past and previous suffering, as though as circumstances have brought him to brink of death. The contrast between the appearance of the crowd and the man further illustrates the similarities between them. The crowd appears youthful, with full faces and shading Goya by Goya. Purchase folds in their skin from excess fat, a sign of wealth and good health. Lines may not necessarily be explicit or literally shown, as what many examples will portray. Implied lines may be just as powerful, if not more. In the Raft of Medusa, the position and orientation of the bodies that are aboard the raft are predominantly diagonal in direction. This creates not only movement but also tension in the scene. Based on an actual event, the painting depicts the 1816 wreckage of the French government ship called Medusa. Lines may not be as visible as any elements in an artwork, but this implies that line is powerful. Kahit di masyadong napapansin ng ating naked eye, itong painting na ito ay naglalarawan sa nangyaring pagkawasak ng isang French ship na ang mga nakaligtas ay sumakay sa isang balsa at namatay din sa gutom bago na iligtas sa dagat. Maybe we can identify lines as fast as we can, but the details of this painting by Theodore simply implies that artwork starts from line, shape, and form. These two are related to each other in the sense that they define the space occupied by the object of art. Shape refers to two dimensions, height and width, while form refers to three dimensions, height, width, and depth. Even if shapes are part of the bigger picture, each can be identified by breaking the visual components apart and making distinctions based on what we know and what we have seen. The two categories can be used as a broad distinction, but before that, let's deal with the definition of each element. Si shape ay two-dimensional. It means itong element na ito ay flat dahil ito ay meron lamang height and width and made up of lines, for example, square, triangle, or any geometric shapes. While on the other hand, si form naman ay three-dimensional. It means kinoconsider natin ang taas, ang haba, at ang lalim ng object. There are two categories can be used as a broad distinction: geometric and organic. Geometric, these shapes find origin in mathematical proposition. As such, its translation and use are often man-made. This includes shapes such as squares, triangles, cubes, circles, spheres, and cones, among others. Organic shapes are those readily occurring on nature, often irregular and asymmetrical. The design of the vase in Figure 55 is Foliage is sample form of a series that made use of in the first
morning glories like
category, geometric, the example here is the composition with color planes and grade lines by Piet Mondrian. In this composition, explores Mondrian's spiritual search for harmony through balanced composition, making it an iconic representation of modern abstract art today. For the second category naman is the organic. As an example here is the vase made by Louis Stephanie. He discovered that treating molten glass with metallic oxides would increase absorption and create a luxurious dazzling surface effect. In making such a discovery, Tiffany elevated the science of glassmaking to an art form. In this, we can see a regular and symmetric form of object as what the organic defines it. Shapes may also be implied. For instance, Raphael's famous painting, The Madonna of the Meadows, depicts three figures, Mary, the young Jesus, and the young John. The positions in which the group takes allude to a triangular shape reinforced by the garb of Mary. The figures in the painting are arranged in a pyramidal composition. This is something that Raphael picked up from Leonardo, particularly his popular cartoon showing the Virgin Saint Anne and their children, which was located in another church in Florence. Raphael also picked up on Leonardo's use of fine light and shadow to model the figure so that they appear to take up actual space within the picture. Unlike Leonardo, however, Raphael used a lighter color that was more in keeping with the palette used by his teacher Perugino. Raphael has used aerial perspective to show how the landscape is far away from us, the viewer. As we look back, we can see just how ideal and peaceful the setting really is. The landscape in the background is filled with graceful curves, and this is connected to the figures through the Madonna's necklines and shoulders, which also curve softly. So overall, both the physical setting and the subject matter are pleasant to look at. There is no pain, struggle, or even Leonardo's mysterious tones are present in this painting. The only uneasy sign is that Christ child grasping the cross of Saint John, which is likely a means of foretelling the future passion of Christ, no? The kind of peacefulness and harmony of the painting was held in high regard by the Renaissance patrons. And after Raphael completed this work, he would be asked to paint a fresco for an even more powerful patron. So, itong painting na ito ay nagpapakita lamang na ng iba't ibang shape, not just shape but also lines which complements the arrangement of the objects.
Good day everyone, I am Ting Mahalayam and I will discuss the space, color, and texture in elements of art in visual. And now let's start. Space related to shape and form, it is usually inferred from a sense of depth, whether it is real or simulated. Real space is three-dimensional, like what has been previously mentioned. Sculptures are a perfect example of artworks that bear this element. However, this can only be manifested in two-dimensional artwork through the use of different techniques or the use or non-use of area around of drawing or picture. Now, here's the example. In the middle of the at&T Plaza at the Millennium Park in the Loeb Community Area in Chicago, the iconic Cloud Gate occupies a considerable space shaped like a bean. Hence, its other referent, the public sculpture, was unveiled in 2004. Pag makikita niyo sa example is, meron siyang space sa gitna na pwede niyong pasukan or pwede niyong puntahan para makita niyo ng buo ang sculptures. Like, space siya para mapasukan niyo at makita niyo ang sculpture in different perspective. However, not all works are sculpture. In two-dimensional artworks, they may be implied. Number one is positive and negative space. Usually identified with the white space is the negative space, while the positive space on the other hand is the space where shadow is heavily used. Ang example natin dito is like the paintings, drawings in a bond paper. Like, kunyari, itong bond paper is may drawing dito sa gitna, then matatawag natin na negative space is yung mga space na walang drawing or walang colors like this. Then, ang matatawag natin na positive space is yung may drawing sa gitna. Or yung drawing, or yung part ng paper na drawingan or na coloran. The next one is the three-dimensional space. It can be simulated through a variety of techniques such as shading. An illusion of three-dimensionally can be achieved in a two-dimensionally work. The example of three-dimensional space is the sculptures, because sculptures occupies a physical space that has a height, width, and depth. As viewers take a look around in the sculpture, their perspective change, allowing them to experience it from various angles, which adds to it three-dimensional presence. The next one is color. Color perhaps one of the elements that enhances the appeal of an artwork. Its effect has range, allowing the viewer to make responses based on memory, emotion, and instinct. This element is a property of light as it is reflected of the object. Color is not intrinsic to an object, and without light, one cannot perceive color. Much of what we know about colors begin with the notion of a color theory that was first unveiled by the experiments undertaken by Isaac Newton, 1666. A ray of sunlight passing through a prism reveals an array of colors to that of a rainbow. An offshoot of this color theory is the creation of a color wheel. The color wheel corresponds to the first property of color, a hue. This dimension of colors give its name. It can be subdivided into primary colors, secondary colors, and tertiary colors. Primary colors is the red, yellow, and blue, while the secondary colors are green, orange, and violet. Green, orange, and violet is secondary colors because it made from a primary colors. Tertiary colors, these hues are achieved when primary and secondary colors are mixed. The next one is the value of colors. This refers to the brightness or darkness of color. This is used by the artist to create the illusion of depth and solidity, a particular mode, communicate a feeling, or establishing a scene. Ang example ng value color is when pag nag-shoot tayo, merong day or night. Then pag day, gumagamit tayo ng mga light colors, ng mga maliliwanag na colors, or pag night naman is gumagamit tayo ng mga dark colors. However, we can identify the color even when a range is presented to us. Expectations are also established based on the notion that yellow is within the light value, while the violet is in the dark. Each primary color has a range of values based on the addition and diminishing quantity and quality of light. For example, is the tint and shade. The tint is a lighter color than the normal value. For example, is the pink to red. And the other one is shade. Shade, it is the darker one to its normal value. For example, is maroon to red. The next one is the intensity. This is the color's brightness or dullness. It is identified as the strength of color, whether it is vivid or muted. To achieve a specific intensity of a color, one may add either gray or its complementary color. To give intensity to the colors, you may add a brown or warm colors to give positive energy and you can give a dull or cool colors to present a coolness, seriousness, or calmness to the color. To better understand intensity of color harmonies are to be considered. In interior design, we often hear designers refer to color schemes, a guide for selecting not only wall paint but also furniture and decor. However, color harmonies are also integral considerations not only for pictorial arts but also for other forms of arts. The first color harmonies is monochromatic harmonies. Use the variations of a hue. An example is Claude Monet's Houses of Parliament. As you can see to the example, artists use a violet, red, and orange color that are from in secondary and primary colors. The next one is the complementary harmonies. Involve two colors opposite each other in the color wheel. Since they are at contrary positions, the reaction most intense. Notice the altar piece featuring Saint Anthony, Saint Roche, along with them is Saint Lucy. Makikita nyo ang suot ni Saint Lucy is green and red, which is red is from the primary colors and green is from the secondary colors. That's the best example of complementary harmonies. The next one is the analogous harmonies. Analogous harmonies make use of two colors beside each other in the color wheel. The example of this color is the red violet and orange and yellow orange. Like makikita nyo sa color wheel natin, like balikan nyo ang color wheel na example, magkatabi ang red violet and also the orange and the yellow orange. The last harmonies is triadic harmonies. It makes use three colors from equidistant sides within the color wheel. It doesn't mean that artists will limit themselves to those kinds of harmonies. This is the jump-off points that artists and other creatives use. All in all, color present multitude of possibilities that affects how works of art are taken in by the viewer. Just taking a look at fairy and passionate reds of the clouds and the sky in Edward Munch, The Scream. Mapapatanong kayo na if Munch depicts a romantic sunsets or a warning to a coming horrors. A clue is not in the colors alone, but rather in the face of man himself. Naipapakita dito na ang color and imagery ay nag-work together para maiparating ang message sa mga nakakakita or sa mga tumitingin. The next elements of art and visual is texture. Like space, texture can be either real or implied. This element in an artwork is experienced through the sense of touch and sight. This element renders the art object tactile. Texture is commonly associated with tactiles. In the portrait rendered by court painter Franz Purbus the Younger, Princess Margarita's guard is adorned in oplement bead and stitch work that are benefiting her rank. This was achieved using the techniques employed by the artist in creating the work. These are the two types of texture. The first one is textures in two-dimensional plane. Texture can be applied using one technique or a combination of other elements of art. By creating this visual quality in the artwork, one can imagine how the surface will feel if it was touched. Some words used to describe texture, like soft, hard, rough, and smooth. To be able to simulate the texture of the surface in a flat, two-dimensional plan is one important skill that an artist must be familiar with, especially if his idea or concept necessitates it. In a two-dimensional plane, it can be represented visually in various ways. This is the two types of textures, the few types of texture. regular textures and irregular textures. Regular textures has a repeating pattern or uniform pattern. For example, is the grid and checkerboard, while the irregular textures has a non-uniform pattern. For example, of irregular texture is the scattered dots and random stroke of brush. This is the last one, textures, which is surface texture. Surface textures refers to the textures of the three-dimensional art object. Also, it refers to the physical quality of surface, which can be rough, smooth, bumpy, or textures in various ways. Artists using a different techniques and materials to create texture, adding to visual interest and depth to their work. Textures can be applied use of the techniques like shading, cross-hatching, impasto, or incorporating actual materials onto the surface of artwork. It adds another dimension of the viewing experience. As you can see to the examples, the actual materials is incorporating onto the surface of the artwork. The element of art make it possible to engage with the visual and tactile qualities of the artwork through a common language that may be widely understood. Through these elements, there is something from which idea, concept, message, or intended mood of the artist may be inferred. It offers a starting point or baseline from which analysis may take place. This kind of analysis is called formal analysis of art. Let's move on to the next topic, which is planes and perspective. Planes and perspective, some of art forms work with actual spaces, such as sculptors, architects, and stage designer. However, with pictorial art that is two-dimensional, notion of depth, and hence perspective, pictures the implementation of principles and techniques in creating an illusion that will fool the eye to three-dimensionality when in reality, there is none. Picture plane is the actual surface of the painting or drawing where no illusion of the third dimension exists. The elements lay flat as if one was looking through a window into what lies on the other side of the glass. During the Renaissance, specifically in the 15th century, chiaroscuro was developed. It made use of light and dark contrast and tones in which paintings not only look three-dimensional but also more dramatic. Aside from this technique, linear perspective changed the way pictorial representation was done. Credited to Renaissance artists, its early proponents include Leon Battista Alberti, Paolo Usilio, and architect Filippo Brunelleschi. In the early 15th century, we were published in Alberti's on painting in 1435. Its use was based on the following observations. Number one is, as forms and objects recede, the smaller they come. Number two is, we were taught that parallel lines never meet, however, when they, two, seem to converge when they recede into a distance at a point, they both disappear. This point of disappearance is called the vanishing point. Ang example dito is like the pictures or paintings of the sunset in the beach, like pag nasa malayo na point, nawawala na ang dagat, like na di na natin nakikita. An example often used to illustrate linear perspective is a railroad, where in the distance the tracks will disappear. A viewpoint can also be construed as normal, low, or high. When we say normal, it is the view when we are standing, and low is a view in the lower angle, and high is the view looking down on the scene, depending on the position of the viewer takes. There are three types of perspective grounded on the number of vanishing points used by the artist. The first one is the one-point perspective, often used depicting roads, tracks, hallways, or rows of trees. This type of perspective shows the power lines that seem to converge at specific and known vanishing points along the horizon line. Katulad ng ating example kanina na railroads, isa lang na road ang nag-vanishing or nagdi-disappear. The second one is the two-point perspective. It pertains to a painting or drawing that make use of two vanishing points, which can be placed anywhere along the horizon line. Like it is used in depicting structures such as buildings, houses in the landscape that are viewed from a specific corner. Like dito naman sa two-point perspective, like as you can see to the example, there are three or two vanishing point or merong mga buildings or structures na nagdi-disappear na. And the last one is three-point perspective. In this type of perspective, the viewer is looking at the scene from above or below. As the name suggests, it makes use of the three vanishing points, each corresponding to each axis of the scene. Ang example naman nito is pag nasa building tayo, nasa taas tayo ng building, then we view or we looking down the scene. The second one is pag asa baba tayo ng building and we look higher or we look up at the scene, and that's the all three types of perspective of grounded number of the vanishing point used by the artist. The 1 point perspective, 2-point perspective, and 3-point perspective. Again, 1-point perspective have a one vanishing part, one vanishing point, and the 2-point perspective has a 2 or more vanishing point, and the 3-point perspective is when you look below the scene or you look up in the scene. And that's all. Good day, everyone.
So hi! Assalamualaikum! Before I start my topic, let me introduce first myself. I am Hidayah P. Osop and my topic is all about elements of art as an auditory. So together with literature, music as an art form is classified as auditory art. So di ba po ang literature is isang form ng art? So ang music din po is considered as art, not science. And di ba po madaming types of art meron tayo? And ang music po is considered or ni-classify po siya as an auditory art. Pag sinabi po nating auditory, is ito po yung napapakinggan from the word audio, is ito po yung napapakinggan na uri ng art. However, some would argue that it is under the broad category of performance art. Meron din pong mga nagsasabi na individual na dapat daw po yung music is hindi po nabilong sa auditory. Dapat daw po is dito daw po siya nabilong sa mas malawak na performance art, gaya po ng pagsayaw, pagkanta, at iba pa. Either way, music, much like the visual arts, has its own building blocks or elements. So, yung music sabi niya po is parang visual arts din. Pag sinabi naman natin visual arts, is ito yung mga arts na mga nakikita and may sarili daw po silang building blocks or elements. So mamaya po is matatakil natin ano-ano nga ba merong elements ang music. So by the way po, dito po sa topic natin is mag-focus lang po tayo sa music as an auditory. Even though po may mga opinion na iba-iba na dapat daw hindi po nabilong yung music sa auditory or dapat daw po nandito siya sa performance art, is kailangan pa rin po nating mag-focus sa music as an auditory dahil yun po yung topic na meron tayo. Perhaps one of the most widespread forms of art whose intersection in daily life is more perceptible is music. So, sinabi po dito na isa sa pinakamalawak na uri ng art na nagagamit natin most likely araw-araw is yung music. So, napapatunayan naman din po naman yun sa araw-araw nating pakikipaghalubilo na yung music po is naririnig natin everywhere. Sa pagsakay po ng jeep, sa pagpunta ng schools, or kahit saan po is naririnig po natin yung music. Music is sound organized in a specific time. So, may specific time din po na naka-organize meron ng music. Based sa ating naririnig is naka-organize siya. Meaning, may mga beats po dito like may specific time na mag-beat within or another time is magbe-beat. Kumbaga, arrange po siya and may specific time na kung kailan tutunog yung tunog meron yung music na yon. It is considered an implement to cultural activities answering a specific role or function. So pag sinabi naman po natin cultural, is nagagamit din po siya sa culture activities. Parang kung pagbabasehan po natin ngayon is yung mga culture po ang meron tayo ngayon is naririnig pa rin po natin yung music with elements. Minsan din po yung music is nagsiserve as function. For example po sa ibang tribo is pag marinig po nila yung isang uri ng music is masasabi pong uy may digmaan na darating. And for example po maririnig yung music and may nangangahulugan pala po itong may namatay or kasiyahan na magaganap. During the times when man had to hunt for food, music was used as a choral herd to animals or as an element of specific rituals or rites. So, dito po, sa sinaunang panahon ng ating mga ninuno is nagamit na din po pala nila yung music. Makikita po natin sa history na meron ng music na nagamit ang ating mga ninuno. So, dito po, sinabi kong sila ay manghuhuli ng mga hayop is maaari pong gamitin nila yung music para po pang trap or pang corner sa isang hayop. Maaari po silang magpatugtog para ma-distract po or makuha nila yung hype na yon. Sinabi din dito na ang music ay ginagamit din siya for spiritual rites. Example po sa simbahan, meron po tayong maririnig na kampana. Sa masjid, meron tayong maririnig na adhan. And yun po is kinukonsider din natin as music since it's not literally the way we understand music, but the thing is, kinukonsider po natin siya as music because we hear something. Meron siyang beat, it is coming from something na within a specific time, so it can be considered as an auditory art. Singing or dancing to music was also often included in opportunities for members of society to gather and interact. So, sinasabi po dito na yung pagkanta and pagsayaw is ginagamit din po pala sa mga ibang tribo para po sila is magpupulong or makikipag-usap sa kanilang mga kasama. Some are adept with the skill and sense to produce music, while others consume it as listeners, audience, and even performance. So, maiintindihan po natin dito na yung music pala is sa iba ay ginagamit nila sa pagpo-perform, like sila yung nagbibigay ng music, and maaari naman na sa iba is sila yung nagsisilbing listener or audience na makikinig sa music na ipoprovide ng magpa-perform. So, if there is an important quality of music, it is having the capacity to transcend barriers. So, sinabi din po dito na maaari palang pumigil ang music ng mga difficulties or kinakaharap ng isang tao. So, maaari pong yung music ang makatulong para po mas magkaunawaan ang mga ito. Even that of difference in language or convention in sound. Sinabi po dito na even may mga pagkakaiba po tayo sa dialect or language na ginagamit is yung music somehow ay doon po tayo maaring magkaintindihan. Different demographics, groups, and individuals may have specific preference as to the genre of music. However, in order to establish this preference, listeners often take to its elements for its evaluation. Sinabi din po dito na iba't ibang uri ng tao or pinanggalingan ay maaari pong magkakaiba-iba tayo ng genre na gusto. Kumbaga may mga tao po na gusto nila is yung may mabilis na beat, masaya, and yung ibang tao naman po is gusto nila is malumani na beat or parang tahimik, ganun. So, basta po ang tinutukoy lang po natin dito is meron po tayong iba't ibang genre ng music na ino-offer and maaari rin po magkaiba-iba tayo sa kung saan ka man nanggaling or kung ano man po yung mga nakasanayan natin sa ating tradisyon or kultura. Pag sinabi po nating elements is ito yung meron siya na nagsisignify na siya po is isang unique. Kung wala pong mga elemento, is hindi po natin siya matatawag na music. So, some of the common elements of music are the following: rhythm, dynamics, melody, harmony, timbre, and texture. So, since tapos ko na pong i-discuss sa inyo guys yung element of art as an auditory, is pumunta naman po tayo sa mga element ng music. And hindi po natin uubusin ito dahil napunta lang po sa akin na topic is dalawa, which is yung rhythm and dynamics. Rhythm is often associated to the terms beat, meter, or tempo. Rhythm is the element of music that situates it in time. It is also the pulse of the music. So, pag sinabi po nating rhythm is, ito po, actually, most of the time is nahahalin tulad po yung ito sa mga beat or kung paano po kabilis yung pagtunog ng isang music, meter or tempo. Pag sinabi naman po natin time is it has something to do with the oras, kung paano po ba umuurong yung oras, kung paano po mapapakinggan yung music na sinasabi natin. Another thing is it is the pulse of the music. Ito po yung puso ng music dahil ito po yung nagbibigay buhay sa ano bang music meron tayo. So magbibigay po tayo ng examples. Halimbawa po is sa Lupang Hinirang na araw-araw po natin napapakinggan. Kung papansinin po natin is yung Lupang Hinirang na yon is may rhythm din po siya na sinusundan. Kung ano oras po ba dapat magpo-pause or magpapatuloy ba yung isang rhythm ng music na yon. Beats is the basic unit of music while tempo refers to its speed. Beats can be recognized into a recognizable recurrent pattern which is called the meter. So classical terms are used to refer to the variations in tempo, some of which are: first is the largo. So pag sinabi po natin largo is slowly and broadly. So meaning mahina po pero malawakan na sakop ng music. So ginagamit po ito ng mga classical individuals. For example po is ang pagtutukuyin po nila yung bagal at pagkalawak ng music ay ang gagamitin po nilang word is yung largo. So next po ay ang andante. Pag sinabi naman po natin andante is walking pace. The meaning of this po is more likely of a walking pace. Malumanay lang po siya, hindi po siya masyadong mabilis kasi more of parang relaxing lang po siya and peaceful po siya na pagdaloy or pag-usog ng isang rhythm. So next is moderato at moderate speed. So from the word itself po, pag ita-translate po natin siya in English is moderate. So kumbaga po, tamang-tamang speed lang po siya, moderate lang ng beat, ng rhythm. So hindi po siya masyadong napakabilis and hindi naman po siya napakahina. Kumbaga katamtaman lang po siya. So next is allegro, meaning po is mabilis. The next is vivace, lively. Ito naman po is lively na medyo po malakas na malawak ng pagbibigay po ng rhythm ng isang music. Next is accelerando, gradually speeding up. So dito naman po is from mabagal siya, pakonti ng pakonti is bibilis na yung rhythm meron yung music na ito. Next is the rallentado, gradually slowing down. Ito naman po yung kabaliktaran ng accelerando. Ito naman po is yung babagal ng babagal yung rhythm, meron yung music. So second to the last is the allargando, getting slower and broadening. So ito naman po is humihina siya pero at the same time po is malawak yung sakop niya. Kumbaga bumabagal yung rhythm ng isang music pero lumalawak yung sakop ng nakakarinig. Lastly is the rubato. Literary ragtime, rhythm is played freely for expressive effect. So dito naman po is yung gagawa ng music na to is he has the choice to express different effects freely. So pag sinabi natin freely is kahit anong gagawin yung rhythm is sa isang tunog is maaari dahil sinabi naman po siyang rubato. So the next element of music meron is ang dynamics. The element of music that refers to the loudness or dynamics. Classical terms are used to this quietness of music is referred to the different levels pertaining. So, mabilisang pag-discuss lang po ang gagawin natin dito dahil napakadaling intindihin naman po. Pag sinabi po natin pagkalakas or yung loudness at paghina ng isang music ay tawag po natin doon ay dynamics. Isang uri din po siya ng elemento meron ang music. So, katulad po ng rhythm, meron din pong ginagamit na classical terms ang ating mga musicians or yung mga individuals po na it has something to do with the music na terms na ginagamit nila to somehow understand more what is dynamic. So the first one is the pianissimo, very quiet. Napakahina lang po ang tunog nito. Kung kanina po is sa rhythm is pinag-uusapan natin is about sa bilis nito. Dito naman po sa dynamics is pag-uusapan natin yung hina or lakas ng sound meron yung music. Next is the piano, quiet. Ibig sabihin po is mahina lang po yung tunog meron dito. Next is the mezzo piano, which means moderately quiet. So, ang mezzo piano naman po is katamtamang hina lang siya. Hindi siya napakahina, hindi rin naman malakas. Katamtamang hina lamang. Next is the mezzo forte. Moderately loud. So, kabaliktaran lang po siya ng mezzo piano kanina, which is katamtamang lakas. Next is the forte, loud. And next is fortissimo, very loud, napakalakas. When composers indicate an increase or decrease in loudness, they use the terms crescendo for the former and decrescendo or diminuendo for the latter. So, pag yung mga musicians daw po or yung mga composer nagsabi sila ng lakasan mo or dagdagan mo yung tunog, ang sasabihin daw po nila is crescendo na nangangahulugang lakasan mo pa yung tunog. And pag decrescendo or diminuendo naman po is nangangahulugang hinaan mo lang yung tunog. So the next part of elements is madidiscuss sa sunod sa akin na reporter. That's all. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Thank you to my colleagues for their insightful segments. I'm Johanna, and I'll be carrying on from where we left off. Today, I'm excited to delve into the fascinating world of music and its intrinsic elements. Our exploration will take us through four critical components that shape the music we know and love: melody, harmony, timbre, and texture. Melody, the main theme or tune of a piece, is what often sticks in our minds long after a song ends. Harmony, the combination of simultaneous sounds, adds depth and richness to the melody. Timbre, often referred to as the color of a sound, is what makes each instrument or voice unique. And finally, texture, the way melodic, rhythmic, and harmonic elements are combined gives a piece its overall feel. Each of these elements plays a unique role in creating the music that moves us, inspires us, and ultimately bring us together. So, let's go on a journey to understand these elements better and appreciate the art of music on a deeper level. Melody. Melody refers to the linear presentation, horizontal of pitch. By horizontal, it means that in musical notation, it is read in succession from left to right. Pitch is the highness or the lowness in musical sound. So, melody in music refers to the linear presentation of pitch. It is the sequence of notes or tones played or sung one after another, forming a coherent and recognizable music line. Melody is often described as the horizontal aspect of music because it is read or heard in succession from left to right. So here's an example to illustrate melody. Consider the opening notes of the popular song Happy Birthday to You. The melody starts with the note happy on a certain pitch, followed by birth on a higher pitch, and day on an even higher pitch. So the melody then descends to and you on lower pitches. So the sequence of these notes creates a recognizable and memorable melody that is easily sung or played. In this example, the melody is presented in a linear manner, with each note following the previous one in succession. So, the pitch of the notes determines the overall contour and direction of the melody, giving it a distinct character and emotional impact. Melody is a sequence of single notes that is musically satisfying and is the main theme or tune of a song or piece of music. It's the part of a song or piece of music that you'd likely find yourself humming or whistling. So melodies are often repeated throughout a song or piece in various forms. They may be one of the most memorable aspects of a piece of music and are often easy to sing along to. So remember, a melody is a sequence of notes that is musically satisfying. It's the part of a song or piece of music that you'd likely find yourself humming or whistling. Now, let's move on to harmony. If melody is horizontal, harmony is vertical. It arises when the pitches are combined to form chords. When several notes are simultaneously played, this refers to a chord. So harmony can be described in terms of its harshness. Dissonance is the harsh sounding combination, while consonance is the smooth sounding combination. So, harmony refers to the vertical aspect of music, where multiple pitches or notes are played simultaneously to form chords. Unlike melody, which focuses on the linear presentation of speech, harmony adds depth and complexity to music by combining different notes together. So, Harmony can be described in terms of its harshness or smoothness. Dissonance refers to the combination of notes that create tension or a sense of instability. Dissonance chords sounds harsh or unresolved. On the other hand, consonance refers to the combination of notes that sound pleasing and stable. Consonance chords sound smooth and provide a sense of resolution. Harmony in music is the process by which individual sounds are bound together. It's the combination of simultaneous music notes in a chord and the structure of music with respect to the composition and progression of chords. Harmony can create a sense of tension or a resolution, excitement or calm, and can greatly affect the overall mood and feel of a piece of music. An example of harmony is the Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. So let's listen to this first. So the song is known for its complex harmonies, particularly in the a cappella section. The band member sings different notes at the same time, creating a rich and complex sound. Just remember, harmony refers to the combination of simultaneously sounded musical notes to produce chords and chord sequences that have a pleasing effect. Timbre. Timbre is often linked to the color of music. It is the quality that distinguishes a voice or an instrument from another. Dependent on the technique, the timbre may give a certain tone or characteristic to music, much like how a painter evokes different effects or impression onto the canvas. So, timbre, pronounced as timbre, often referred to as the color of music. It is the unique quality that distinguishes one voice or instrument from another. It is the characteristic sound produced by an instrument or a voice that sets it apart and makes it recognizable. Timbre is influenced by various factors, including the physical characteristics of the instrument or voice, the technique used to produce sound, and the materials involved. It is what allows us to differentiate between a piano and a guitar, or between different singers. Just like how a painter uses different brushes or techniques to create various effects on a canvas. The timbre of an instrument or voice can give a certain tone or characteristic to music. It adds richness and depth to the overall sound. For example, consider the difference in timbre between a trumpet and a violin. The trumpet produces a bright, brushy sound, while the violin produces a warm and expressive tone. These distinct timbres contribute to the technique, character, and emotional impact of each instrument. Similarly, the timbre of a singer's voice can vary greatly. Some voices may have a smooth and velvety timbre, while others may have a husky or raspy quality. These individual timbres contribute to the uniqueness and personal style of each singer. Timbre is an essential element in music. Remember, timbre is a fundamental aspect of music that allows us to distinguish between different instruments and voices, even when they are playing or singing the same notes. Texture, the number of melodies, the type of layers, and the relatedness in the composition is the texture of music. It may be monophonic, which refers to a single melodic line, polyphonic, which refers to two or more melodic lines, or homophonic, which refers to many melody accompanied by chords. So texture in music refers to the overall relationship and interaction between different musical elements, such as melodies, harmonies, and rhythms. It is determined by the numbers of melodies or voices, the type of layers, and the relationship to each other within a composition. The texture of music can be described in terms of its complexity, thickness, and how the different musical elements are combined. It can range from a single melodic line, which is monophonic texture, which means in music refers to a single melodic line without any accompanying harmonies or additional voices. It can consist of a solo melody performed by one instrument or voice. Number two is polyphonic texture, which involves two or more independent melodic lines that are played or sung simultaneously. Each line has its own distinct melody, and the lines interact and harmonize with each other. And lastly is the homophonic texture, which features a main melody or voice accompanied by harmonies or chords. The main melody takes the lead while the accompanying voices provide support and harmony. Remember, texture is an essential element of music as it contributes to the overall sound and character of a musical piece. Texture can create a sense of unity, contrast, or complicity, and it is often used by composers to convey their artistic intentions. Thank you all for your attention during my part of this presentation. I hope that the information I've shared has been insightful and informative. We're now going to move on to the next part of our presentation. My colleague will be taking over from here and will continue to expand on our topic. I'm sure you'll find their presentation just as engaging. Thank you again, and over to you.
Principle of arts. To reiterate, the appreciation and engagement of art relies substantially on being equipped with the appropriate language that allows it to be more comprehensible. Um, ang principle of arts ay madali lang kung alam mo yung mga principles. Ang pag-aaral ng arts ay nagpapadali sa atin para mas lalo nating maintindihan ng art. Pinapakita sa atin kung paano ginagamit ng mga artists ang colors, shapes, and other stuff to create shapes. Balance. These principles refers to the distribution of visual elements in view of their placement in relation to each other. Balance, ang alam natin sa everyday life natin, ang balance ay kapag nag-bibigsikleta ka or umaakyat ka ng hagdan. Pero sa art ay importante din siya dahil in art ay it's a principle of design. It's a way to make your artwork rich. So here's the example of the balance in art. So there are three forms of balance. First is symmetrical balance. The elements used on one side are reflected to other. Meaning, kung ano yung nakikita mo sa kabila ay yung din yung nakikita mo sa left. Kung i-divide natin sa gitna, parang reflection siya kung ano yung nakikita mo sa left. This is a symmetrical balance. The elements are not the same or the same weight on each side, putting the heaviness on one side. Meaning, ang symmetrical balance ay hindi pareho from side to side. So, makikita natin sa picture, ang isa ay malaking puno at ang sa kabila naman ay mga maliit na puno. So, hindi sila magkatulad ng symmetrical balance dahil ang symmetrical ay pareho from side to side. Ang asymmetrical ay hindi pareho from side to side. Last is radial. There is a central point in the composition around which elements and objects are distributed. Meaning, may central point. So, ang central point na yun ay connected yun sa kung ano yung nakikita mo ngayon sa visual element. Scale and proportion. Scale pertains to the size in relation to what is normal for the figure or object in question. Scale meaning about the size of a sculpture kumpara sa mga normal na object na makikita natin. Example yung gawa ni Arturo Luz sa Philippines na makikita natin sa Mayala Museum na um, pinalaking version na paperclip. Gusto talaga ng mga artist na gumawa ng malaking size kumpara sa mga regular size. Dahil para makabigay sila ng saya at surpresa sa mga tao in the public. Para makita nila yung mga tao na mapapasmay pag nakikita nila yung gawa nila. Proportion. On the other hand, it is the size of a components or of object in relation to another when taking a composition or a unit. To human body sa culture ay may iba't ibang idea. For example, sa Egyptian artist na gumagamit sila ng square grid or palad ng kamay para makagawa sila ng human figure. Kailangan nila ng 18 square from head to foot. Sa Greek naman ay gumagamit sila ng golden ratio dahil ito yung ideal beauty nila or perfection nila. This ratio is 1.618. So, pag pinag-usapan ng human body, hindi mawawala yung Vitruvian Man na makikita natin sa picture by Leonardo da Vinci in 1490s. Notes of the famous architecture na si Vitruvius. Ito ay importante dahil Greeks felt na ang square ay represent ng na kung ano yung na-experience natin ngayon sa mundo. Ang circle naman ay represent ng heavens or tinatawag na perfect world. Meaning to be a perfect presentation of harmonions. We have a three proportion can be. First is natural. Relates to the realistic size of the visual elements in the artwork, especially for the figure artworks. Meaning ng natural, the word natural, totoo, pag drawing or paggawa ng sculpture na parang totoo. Next is exaggerated. Refers to the unusual size of relations of visual elements, deliberately exaggerating the immensity or minuteness of an object. Meaning, kung gusto ng artist na mas malaki or mas maliit kumpara sa original object. Kung maliit, tinatawag siyang diminutive. Or kung sa malaki naman, tinatawag siyang monumental. Last is idealized. Most common to those that follow canons or perfection, the size relation of elements or object which achieve the most ideal size relations. Meaning, kung ang artist ay gustong pagandahin lalo or i-perfect yung sculpture. Example yung sa Greeks na gumagamit sila ng golden ratio. Emphasis meaning nagbibigay diin sa picture na para mas mapansin. Next is contrast. Is the disparity between the elements that figure into the composition. Na ang contrast ay nagkakaroon ng malalim na pagkakaiba sa elements of design. Example, yung pagsamahin natin ng dark and light, mas mapapansin mo yung light.
Good day, I am Alra of M. Salibo, and we're gonna proceed now to the unity and variety. Unity and variety is a basic idea in art and design. It's about finding the right balance between making things look unified and making them interesting. Unity means making all the parts of a picture or sculpture fit together nicely. It's like putting together a puzzle where every piece looks like it belongs with the others. This can be done by using similar colors, shapes, or patterns throughout the artwork. Unity makes the whole thing feel organized and complete. Variety, on the other hand, is about adding different things artwork to make it more exciting. It's like adding different flavors to a meal. This could mean using a different textures, sizes, or colors to create contrast and keep things from looking too boring. Our example here is Vasudhara Mandala. Mandala is a piece of art that showcases the principles of unity and variety. In this mandala, unity is represented through the central theme or concept of Vasudhara, a Buddhist deity associated with wealth and prosperity. The mandala is centered around this deity, creating a sense of unity and harmony in the artwork. At the same time, the Vasudhara Mandala also incorporates variety through its complex details such as the different symbols, colors, and pattern used to depict various elements within the composition. These diverse elements add visual interest and complexity to the artwork, engaging the viewer and creating a sense of richness and depth. On the other hand, variety adds interest and excitement to the artwork, preventing it from becoming boring. It introduces diversity and contrast, making the composition more dynamic. When unity and variety are carefully balanced, they contribute to the overall harmony of the artwork. The elements flow together seamlessly, creating a sense of interconnectedness and visual unity. This harmony can evoke a feeling of tranquility, balance, and completeness for the viewer. By combining unity through the central theme of Vasudhara and variety through the complex details and diverse elements in the composition, the Vasudhara Mandala demonstrates how art can balance unity and diversity to create a visually captivating and meaningful work of art. Harmony. Harmony is closely related to the concept of unity and variety in art and design. When we talk about harmony in art, we are referring to a pleasing arrangement or combination of elements that creates a sense of completeness and unity. It's about achieving a visual balance and a feeling of wholesome within the artwork. Unity and variety play a crucial role in creating harmony. Unity ensures that all the elements in the artwork work together unity and creating a sense of oneness. This could be achieved through the use of similar colors, shapes, or patterns that tie the different elements together. Movement in art is all about the path that your eyes follows as you look at a piece of artwork. It is like a visual journey that is guided by certain parts of the artwork that stand out. These standout areas are called focal points, can be created by things like lines, edges, shapes, and colors within the artwork. They direct your attention and guide the movement of your eyes as you take in the piece. So, movement in art is essentially about how your eyes move around and interact with the different elements in the artwork, creating a sense of flow and direction. Rhythm. Rhythm in art is like a beat in music. It is the feeling of movement created by repeating certain elements in a piece of art. When different kinds of repetition are used, it makes the rhythm more interesting, just like how different notes and instruments make music more exciting. So, when you look at a painting or a sculpture, the way certain shapes, colors, or lines are repeated can create a sense of flow and energy, just like a catchy tune in a song.
Repetition and pattern. Lines, shapes, colors, and other elements may appear in an artwork in a recurring manner. This is called repetition. In addition, the image created out of repetition is called pattern. With repetition, there is a sense of predictability that is conveyed, which in turn imbues the feelings of security and calmness. In short, elements may appear multiple times and that is repetition po. And kapag naman naulit na siya, nagkakaroon ng image, ng another image, yun naman po yung tinatawag nating pattern. La Berceuse by Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh painted La Berceuse 5 times between the years of 1888 to 1890. One of these versions portrays Madame Rollin, the wife of postman in Arles, Madame Rollin as the subject holding on a rope that could rock a cradle that isn't present in the painting. Van Gogh found inspiration within his maternal image of Madame Rollin to portray her as a comforting figure that evokes memories of happier days. The title signifies consolation and suggests serene tranquility with its subdued color palette. Madame Rollin is represented primarily as a mother offering comfort and support through her gaze and voice. Van Gogh believed that art should evoke complex emotions through alternative strategies, which is clearly evident in his portrait. There are subtle details like the fabric patterns on her dress which show remarkable attention to details. Overall, Vincent van Gogh La Berceuse painting represent pastoral tranquility that infused with deeply personal symbolism meant to evoke consolation for anyone feeling lost or alone. Its serene repose conveys an unmistakable sense of compassion and reassurance, showing how powerful art can be in conveying emotion when done is right.
Combined or hybrid art refers to the merging and fusion of different art forms, styles, and disciplines to create innovative and multidimensional artworks. This approach challenges traditional boundaries and encourages collaboration between artists from various fields. Examples of combined arts include dance, theater, installation art, film, video art, photography, and design, among others. In combined arts, artists often draw inspiration from multiple sources and employ improvisation to create unique compositions that may be unprecedented. The process of combining different art forms requires deconstructing ideas and stimuli to integrate content, narrative, techniques, and styles. One notable example of combined art is theatrical performance, which incorporates music, visual arts, literature, lighting, and set design. On the other hand, hybrid arts represent a movement that integrates science and technology into artistic practices. Artists working in hybrid arts explore fields such as robotics, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, digital technologies, and telecommunications to push the boundaries of artistic expression. This movement is driven by the expansion of imagination and the rapid advancements in scientific and technological developments, enabling artists to create groundbreaking artworks that challenge conventional notion of art production. In conclusion, combined or hybrid arts ay nagre-reflect sa evolving nature of contemporary art practices, emphasizing interdisciplinary collaboration, experimentation, and innovation in the creation of diverse and engaging artworks.